So Ford surprised us all when they dropped the Dark Horse on us back in September. Now we always wondered, when the new 650 was coming out, what was going to be the performance variant? Would they build something to compete with the GT500? Potentially, possibly one of the best Mustangs ever made. When we learned the specs of the Dark Horse, you could tell it was aimed directly at that Mach 1 GT350 customer. You had the Coyote engine, you had the Tremec transmission, MagneRide, Recaros, big wheels, big tires, big brakes. Now, none of this is going to be a performance threat to the GT500, but it's definitely a contender versus the GT350 and the Mach 1. And as a GT350 owner, I was definitely intrigued by the new Dark Horse. So much so that when an allocation became available from a local dealer, I actually put my name on it. That made me think, what? Is the Dark Horse really an improvement? Is it a better car than the GT350? Well, let's compare what we know. So let's start with the GT350. Under the hood, you have the 5.2-liter Voodoo engine, making 526 horsepower, 429 pound-feet of torque, and it revs to 8,250 RPM. That's the highest revving V8 engine Ford has ever made, and it makes over 100 horsepower per liter. Backing it is the Tremec 6-speed transmission, and you have 373s and a Torsen diff. Out front, you have the 15.5-inch brakes with 6-piston Brembos, and you have 15-inch rear rotors with 4-piston Brembos. And wheel-wise, you have 19 by 10.5s in the front and 19 by 11s in the back. Inside, optional Recaro seats, and a completely new front fascia, hood, and fenders unique to the GT350. Now we'll get to performance in a minute, but what are the cons of the GT350? Well, one of them is that engine. That Voodoo 5.2 sounds absolutely amazing, but it's proven not to be the most reliable engine, particularly the Generation 1 cars from 2015 through 2018. They do have some issues with oil consumption, and some have had oil issues where the vibration of that flat plane crank actually let the filter come loose and fireballs ensued. So they don't have the best reputation for reliability, but it is an amazing track car and probably one of the best sounding V8s Ford has ever built. Now let's discuss what we know about the Dark Horse. It's going to have that dual inlet Gen 4 Coyote making 500 horsepower and 418 pound-feet of torque. So a little less power, a little less torque than the GT350, but based on the Coyote design, probably a little more bottom-end torque. Same transmission option, the 6-speed manual from Tremec. You can also get a 10-speed in the Dark Horse. It also has MagneRide suspension. It also is going to have a large wheel and tire setup, same size wheels, and similar front brakes, yet slightly smaller rear brakes than the GT350. Now the Dark Horse is going to come with the Trofeo tire, again talking handling pack, versus the Sport Cup 2 that came on the GT350. How those Trofeos will work, well, we don't really know because it's pretty much a brand new tire. But you have MagneRide, you have Recaros, you have a lot of the same creature comforts and features that you're going to get with the GT350. Also, you get a lot more electronics with the Dark Horse. Now, what are the cons to the Dark Horse? Well, it's brand new. We don't know what issues could pop up with a brand new model. On a good side here, the chassis is pretty much the same as the 550, so it should be pretty proven. As far as the electronics and the engine and everything else, we really don't know how it's going to hold up or if there'll be any issues with the new model. Other issues are, we know tuning is going to be a challenge. Now, recently did a video talking about tuning of the S650, and most people believe it will happen, but it's going to be a while till it happens. So if you want to tune your car, you can tune a Shelby right now, you can tune a Mach 1 right now. The Dark Horse will probably be a while. The Dark Horse is also a connected vehicle. So again, you're going to have that direct connection from your vehicle to Ford at all times. What that means, well, that's up for debate. Some people may like that, some people may hate it, but it's something you're not going to have on the GT350. So let's talk performance, because honestly, that's what a lot of it comes down to. We know numbers on the Shelby 350. We actually can use some numbers from the Mach 1. The Dark Horse, we're going to have to basically estimate based on Mach 1 performance. Now, even though the Dark Horses are available for sale, you can order one and spec one out, Ford hasn't released any performance numbers yet. And most of the people who've driven these cars kind of haven't been able to say much about the performance at all. So we're hoping Ford actually releases some numbers soon, but based off the weight of the car, the transmission we know it has, the engine we know it has, we can estimate the numbers probably pretty accurately. So the 2020 GT350 is going to do 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. The 2021 Mach 1 is going to be 4.3 seconds, and we're estimating the Dark Horse to be around 4.1 seconds thanks to the extra horsepower. The quarter mile, you're talking 12.3 at 117 for the GT350, 12.6 at 115 for the Mach 1, again with a 6-speed manual, and the Dark Horse we're going to estimate at 12.4 at around 116. Skid pad, 1.09 for the GT350, 1.05 Gs for the 2021 Mach 1, and we're guessing the same 1.05 for the Dark Horse. 60 to 0 should be about the same story. 95 feet for the GT350, 96 feet for the 21 Mach 1, and also 96 feet for the Dark Horse. Again, considering the braking and tires are going to be similar to the Mach 1. So looking at the numbers between the GT350 and the new Dark Horse, it really is going to come down to a driver's race. Whether you're on a road course or a drag strip, the numbers are going to be so close that any kind of small driver error would honestly be the difference between the two cars. Now, the one place where the Dark Horse will really outshine the GT350 is going to be in electronics, and particularly the interior. You have that huge LCD screen in the cluster and another one in the center stack. Now, does that make it a better car than the GT350? That's tough to say. I mean, does the slightly more analog GT350 better represent the history of the Mustang? Well, I mean, these are two cars that many owners, myself, are going to have to compare and decide if it's worth the upgrade. So if you had a GT350 or you're driving a Mach 1, are you considering a 2024 Dark Horse?